What's going on, everybody? Uh, just wanted to make this video real quick, because it's something we deal with in recovery a lot. And I wanted to. By the way, I'm an addict. My name is Brian. I was doing a lot of videos on here, interviewing recovering addicts, stuff like that, because I wanted to, give you the other side, right? I see a lot of channels, they try to go around in the bad neighborhoods and whatnot, and they, you know, try to show you the street stuff, people all strung out, and it makes for good, it makes for good content, I guess. America loves to see, well, hell, the whole world, we love to see pain and misery, what I mean? It's kind of what we get off on, right? But this channel was to show you the other side of addiction, to give you the insight to people that are out there struggling, that could come across it thinking they don't have a way out, to let them see that, no, there is a way out, right? you know I myself and a lot of people I know, we found our way out of active addiction by way of a 12-step recovery program. Um, there's a lot of good ones out there: AA, NA, CA. I try to say it all the time in these videos, just to give you. So it's Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous. There's Gamblers Anonymous. The one I chose was Narcotics Anonymous, and I chose to find what they call a sponsor in Narcotics Anonymous. And a sponsor is just another recovering addict who guides you through the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous. And those steps are the same across the board in all 12-step programs. What changes is the first step, and just a word or two in the first step. Like, for instance, in Narcotics Anonymous, the first step is we admitted that we were powerless over our addiction and that our lives had become unmanageable. In, for example, Alcoholics Anonymous, the first step would read, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. And then all the other anonymous 12-step programs, whatever that particular program is dealing with, that's the word that would be in the first step. And then all the rest of the steps are the same. Um, Now, the thing about those steps is there's a lot of mentioning about the word God, right? Um, and it's kind of like the elephant in the room, because in Narcotics Anonymous, our literature talks about how this is not a religious program. It is a spiritual program. And for some people it's hard to understand, the difference between spiritual and religious, you know what I mean? And it's hard to wrap your mind around it. So it's why a lot of 12-step programs get this kind of like stigma of a cult. You know what I mean? And what I was saying earlier about the elephant in the room, because through the steps you hear things like, you know, um, we turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understood Him, right? We talk about His will for us, and when I say it's the elephant in the room, you know, all these 12 steps of all these programs, they stem from Alcoholics Anonymous. That was the creator of all of it. And Alcoholics Anonymous at the time, and probably still today, it was a religious based program. When they talk about God, His, and Him, they're talking about the Catholic God. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. So it's funny because in Narcotics Anonymous we talk about how this isn't a religious program, but yet these steps, we know who the steps are referring to when we talk about God and His and Him. We know who it is, but we also talk about it's not a religious program. So it's a weird thing, and For myself, I'm an atheist, right? And when I say I'm an atheist, it's not so much that I don't believe in a God or gods, because there's a lot of gods, first of all. And it's that I haven't seen sufficient evidence for a God. Any God, right? All the evidence for a God, and I was brought up in a Catholic setting. And it seems to me that all the evidence for a God is, it's kind of like a personal testimony in the Bible. I'll just speak for my religion because that's the only one I know it. But most of them are kind of similar. They have a book. The book says the book is true, and that's about it. There's no outside evidence to state what's going on. I'll just speak for the Bible. Like in the Bible is true. Like around that time period, it's just weird to me how there was all these miracles going on, and there was all these dudes feeding 5,000 people with a fish and a loaf of bread. I don't know what's happening. He's walking on water. He's getting put on a cross. He's coming back to life. There's one part in the Bible where there's zombies. There's people. The whole town comes back to life or something. They're walking around. We have, how about let's build a big boat and put 2 of everything on it, and because I'm about to drown everybody. And by the way, those 3 or 4 people that built the ark, yeah, you guys repopulate the earth. I don't even understand how that is. How the hell did that even happen? But anyway, you would think there'd be some outside sources. I don't know. Hey, some dude's journal or something. Hey, I was walking by this town called Jerusalem. There was this guy walking on water. It was crazy. There's no outside source. The only truth you could find to the Bible is the Bible. And the resurrection is, even the Christians and Catholics can't get the resurrection story right. It's, there's a whole bunch of, different accounts from people that were there. There's, in one story there was like 7 angels, and one there was like 3. I don't know. I've read the Bible pretty good because, it's weird. And I'm making this video because this is for people who are atheists that come into recovery. And they see that God word and it kind of bugs them out. And here comes the cult thing. You know what I mean? So this is what I'm just giving you my experience when I say that I haven't seen sufficient amount of evidence to even believe there's a God. Is it possible there's a God? Sure. I mean, but to me, it's possible that there's leprechauns. It's possible that there's unicorns. You know what I mean? It's just that a God, a supreme being who is outside of space and time and created all that we see and knows everything that you're going to do, has a plan for you, watches you, listens to your prayers, and all that, is to claim that is an extraordinary claim. And I am a person that needs extraordinary evidence for an extraordinary claim. Just to give you an example, if me and you met on the street, we're strangers, and you had mentioned to me that you have a dog at home, you make a claim you have a pet dog at home, I don't need that much evidence to buy that because people have dogs, and even if I did want evidence for it, even if your dog wasn't home, I could still see evidence of a dog, like maybe some dog food, some dog shit in the lawn, dog treats laying around, maybe there's some hair on your couch, there's really good evidence. But because it's not an extraordinary claim, it's something that we all see every day, we get it. It doesn't require extraordinary evidence. So I would just buy that. But here's the thing. Now, if we were on the street and you told me, hey, man, I got a pet dragon at home. I keep it in the closet. That's an extraordinary claim. So I'm going to need some extraordinary evidence. So, like, in other words, I need to walk into your house to see this dragon. You feel what I'm saying? That's the difference to me. So it's not so much that I'm not open to there being a God. I just have yet to date in my life seen evidence for not only the Catholic Christian God or any other God, you know. And so I wanted to make this video. Number one, to say, that like when a lot of people think of atheists, they think of like, this like devil worshiping people, or they have no morals, and they have, where do you get your morals from if you're not religious? And to that I just say, well, my morals come naturally, in the sense of I just have this understanding that it seems to me the world is my life seems to be better when I care about people around me, and I don't do things like steal, kill, murder, or rape, because I tend to not want those things to happen to me. So I've learned through evolving as a person in my life that it's far better to be compassionate and to be understanding and to look out for your neighbor and all that stuff. And I don't need a God to tell me that. It's just I could see the benefits to doing that in life. So if you ask me where's my morals come from, it's just, I don't know. It's just like a natural thing, There's no, to me, there's no God needed for that. So I just wanted to give you my experience with that. And I wanted to say to anybody who's seeking recovery, and you've looked at a 12-step program, and you look at that God word and you get bugged out, I'm going to tell you what I did. So I have learned to do these like mental gymnastics when I'm in meetings or I'm going over step work, when I see the God word. And to me, when I see the God word, all I look at it is I take the letters G-O-D, and to me they just stand for good, orderly direction. I just look at it like that. Good, orderly direction, right? And I've learned in the beginning, I remember like I would be like a rebel with it. Somebody would talk about God, and I knew they were talking about Jesus, and I'd be like, nah, that's, and I would start challenging them and all this stuff, or I'd be on some rebel mission. And now I just kind of went, you know what? It's okay. It's okay to just talk the lingo, right? Because the most important thing in a meeting is the good, orderly direction. The most important thing in a meeting is the empathy that's there, the ability to relate to one another and understand that, like, we know we know that you have a brain that's in disorder that makes you do crummy ass things to get high, right? And then once you put the drug down, we understand that those behaviors are still there. Even though most of the world looks at you like you're fucking nuts, we get that there's some work to be done internally to find out why it is you do the things you do. And look at things like character defects, shortcomings. We do what they call a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves to find out why it is we use, why it is we do these things we do, why it is that we tend to come from this selfish base. Like this, our jumping off point is usually a self-centered platform. You understand? That's the important things in recovery. And the sponsor I got is highly religious. He's a, go Jesus guy. But if you would sit there, if you were a fly on the wall and heard me and my sponsor talking about a higher power and what spiritual is, you would think we were talking about the same thing. But for me, my higher power is the group itself, right? Individuals. So I look at my program as a whole with the individuals in it, and I try to keep it on the as a whole, because we know in life individuals will fail you. But see, as a whole, Narcotics Anonymous and any other fellowship you go to, an anonymous program, as a whole, it's good, orderly direction. So I just wanted to put this out there because, see, our disease is very cunning and baffling when we're in that mix of active addiction. And our disease will keep us from trying to not... And when I say our disease, what I mean is our brain. See, our brains, they're not right. The disease lies up here. This is where it lives. And we'll look for any reason to not stop using. You know what I mean? We'll look for any reason to remain selfish, to remain manipulative, to con the shit out of people, even ourselves, and to continue to use. And one of the things people use is that whole, well, that's a cult, it's God, I'm not into that, you know. So I just wanted to let you know that coming from an atheist standpoint, to me, spiritual has nothing to do with religion. Spiritual is more of like a spirit for living. You see, when I was in active addiction and when I first got to Narcotics Anonymous, my spirit for life was gone. There was, it was hopeless. I was broken. All that good stuff that comes along with it. Burnt every bridge there is. You understand? And through the process of a 12-step program, I gained awareness of who I am. I worked on some character defects. I've worked on some shortcomings. I've learned to become compassionate, understanding to people. When I get in hairy situations, I've learned to look what's my part in this situation instead of always pointing the finger at people. You, it's your fault, you're the one that's blamed. And I just try to look at my part in every situation, even situations that you would think you really don't have a part. It's just that person being an asshole. If you really look, or let's say you're in a bad relationship, whatever it is, if you really look, you have a part in it. And I'm able to do that because of the 12 steps and the good orderly direction of my 12-step program, right? So I just wanted to put it out there. Atheists do recover in a 12-step program, right? So you could stop using that excuse, because I know plenty of people like me. Like I said, not so much that we don't believe in a God. We just don't see the evidence for a God. And it's okay. And we gain morals in here. We gain values that we lost. You know what I mean? Through active addiction. And yeah, man, in a couple weeks, I'll be coming up on 8 years clean. And I'm going to tell you right now, bro. You're looking at a junkie, bro. You're looking at a dude who got it in. I did every drug under the sun. I've robbed people. I did people dirty, including family members and friends. Just a real piece of shit, dude. And I'm going to tell you, man, I walked into the doors of a 12-step recovery program. Mine happens to be Narcotics Anonymous. Yours doesn't have to be that. And I sat down. I admitted I was powerless, that I couldn't do it on my own. I needed a power to plug into. And I found a higher power, which is the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, which is the work I do with my sponsor, which is the 12 steps. And I live by the spiritual principles contained in the 12 steps. And the top 3 of those are learning how to be honest, open-minded, and willing. And once you can grasp those 3 and grasp the idea that you have a disease, and stop focusing on the differences and pull the similarities out of it, you too can stay clean. So, hopefully anybody that needed to see this video, you see this video. You know what I mean? And everybody have a good day. Or dare I say, have a blessed day.